Have you ever pondered what it's like to face life's edge as a child and discover a deep connection to the cosmos? The captivating story of today transports us to a near-drowning occurrence that turned into an enthralling near-death experience, NDE. Imagine the following: a mysterious rescuer dressed in an old-fashioned bathing suit, the profound realization of our interconnectedness with the world and each other, and the profound truths collected in that brief voyage between life and death. Prepare yourself for a thought-provoking investigation of this remarkable near-death experience that makes us wonder about the essence of life itself. Remember to subscribe for more amazing stories and come along on this intriguing adventure with me. I vaguely remember almost drowning in a small Ohio swimming hole near the Appalachian Mountains when I was 5 years old. My mom had grown up in the region, so it was a well-liked hideaway, a man-made pond where the people congregated. There was a platform in the middle of the pond for jumping and splashing, and boys indicated the permitted swimming area. I knew exactly what I was going to do at 7. Dog paddle, jump from the platform, swim to the deck, and then swim back to shore. There were only a few families there on this particular day, and the lifeguard was just relaxing in their chair when I saw a girl my age jump off the other side of the platform into the deeper end. With a sudden feeling of adventure, I made the decision to go with her. I had no idea the girl could swim, and the water was considerably deeper there than I thought. Full of confidence, I took off, jumped off her side, and splashed into much deeper water. My go-to tactic of pushing up, striking the sand, and sinking wasn't quite working. I tried desperately to breathe, but my mouth wouldn't stay above the water, so I ended up gulping water. I was gasping for air and was struggling to shout for aid when panic struck. I started to feel like I was drowning from the fear of learning I had underestimated the depth. I desperately waved my arm over the surface of the water, hoping to be rescued, while the water rose to around 2.5 feet over my head. It broke barely enough for my arm. Still struggling for breath, every effort to raise my arm was ineffective. I stopped screaming and tried to take a deep breath after realizing I had to concentrate on breathing. My body began to heat up, and even at that young age, I knew that the oxygen was running low. The sense of death became tangible. I eventually gave up my desperate battle and started to give in to the process. While submerged, I noticed children's hands and feet maneuvering about me. Sand particles agitated, producing captivating ripples in the auburn water. I savored the beauty of the dying process and the surroundings as I accepted the moment. I was mesmerized by those sand grains sparkling like diamonds as sunlight seeped across the lake, and it felt like time had stopped. Imagine the following bizarre scene. I was apart from the worried faces above in my own universe. My seclusion had an unsettling beauty, even in the face of impending danger. I let go, and the terror gradually faded. I sensed a piece of myself pulling away from my body. My mother was looking for me above, looking panicked. However, I had a feeling she wouldn't understand everything because her past had been difficult, and she was emotionally vulnerable. I informed her that it would be too much for her to comprehend. I decided to stay, mostly for her sake, even though I was really itching to go over to where it seemed like home. This woman showed up right as I was making up my decision. Her white bathing suit, which had an almost skirt-like vintage flair from the 1930s or 1940s, is what I recall so well. Her long white hair was styled into a braid and fell into the water, swinging gracefully and ethereally. I felt as though I was being pulled out of the water as she got closer. I kept watching my mother from above, and it was startling how the warmth changed on my skin. The woman, still a mystery, moved quickly, and my distraught mother hurried over to join us. I was handed over to my mother with such ease that it seemed like the woman was walking on water. My mother returned me to our location. Although I didn't require any emergency medical attention, the woman's embrace had a profound effect on me. When I was completely back in my body, I stopped being an outsider. My mother was asking worriedly what had occurred. I told the story about how I'd once tried to jump off the other side of the deck while pretending to be another girl. When my mother decided it was time to leave, she went to the lifeguard, who had been preoccupied with tip counting the entire time, to voice her displeasure. Mom pushed me to locate and give thanks to the unidentified woman at our location. I looked around, but neither she nor any of her family members were searching for me. It seemed weird since, after all, you would think someone who had just saved a kid would want to check in. My mother tried to contact every family, but nobody came forward, which made the situation much more mysterious. After some time, I discovered that I was looking for the woman who had saved my life. I questioned everyone, asking whether they knew who she was or had seen anything. I gave a detailed description of her, but nobody appeared to know that this was the woman who had saved a child from drowning. Everything about it felt so strange. In retrospect, I always felt as though a guardian or guide had stepped in to let me make that decision. I had a brief moment of oneness when I was a little child, experiencing a deep sense of love and connection. I understood that the sunlight hitting those grains of sand, the warmth of the water, and the golden tint were all connected to me. I didn't fully understand the lesson at that young age. It took me around 30 years to realize the universal connection and my connection to the source. The lessons learned from that incredible encounter started to show out in various forms as life went on. Because of the NDE, I became more attuned to people's energies and feelings and realized that I was clairsentient. I eventually developed the ability to discriminate between my sentiments and those of others, even though at first it was difficult. The teachings from that NDE came back to haunt me in my early 40s, upending my unconscious way of life. The lessons struck me once more while I waited at the border between Vancouver and the United States. I took out a book and started reading the Gene Keys. Hardcore music blasted from a car next to me, which at first I took to be animosity. "Linnea, don't be so judgmental. These people are just like you," a voice inside of me murmured as I rolled up my window and switched on my classical music. Looking at them, they seemed reflective and serene, somewhat unlike their music. I had an epiphany that told me to accept them as family and to stop passing judgment. I was brought back to my childhood near-death experience by this wave of emotions. I observed the monuments, the people lounging, and the large park at the border crossing. I noticed Asian and black children playing football against the backdrop of the nearby car's loud music as it faded. Their happiness deeply touched me. I sensed their joy as if I had previously experienced it. I saw their whole family, grinning with love, wonder, and compassion, and I could feel a strong, almost unbelievable bond between us. It felt like time was slowing down, much like when I almost drowned. Like the grains of sand in the river, the plants and trees swung softly as they caught the sunshine. Everything seemed out of its regular flow. I noticed another Middle Eastern family as I continued to scan. I could really relate to their pride and love for their kids. It became evident that although we all have unique stories to tell, we are all pieces of the same original material. We are all related, thus by remaining open, I was able to share and relate to their stories. Like when I almost drowned, I was so overcome with love that I lost all sense of time. Everything appeared to be glowing, and I felt incredibly connected to the natural world. When I realized that the ego-driven feeling of separation is just an illusion, I realized that loneliness doesn't exist because we are all connected. I started to feel the energy all about me, like a web of light tying everything and everyone together. Beams of light threaded through every human, tree, bush, and plant, weaving a complex tapestry of life. This realization, a profound sense of oneness, was indescribable. This insight was combined with the lessons I learned from my drowning incident, which helped everything come together. Upon realizing this, my focus returned to the here and now. The grass began to sway more quickly. The wind increased, and I became aware that my face and clothes were completely wet from crying so much at the overpowering love. The moment was too beautiful to put into words. I realized that this event was connected to my initial realization of oneness during my near-death encounter, signifying a deep comprehension of our interdependence. I hope to have more of these experiences along the way. "We all fall in," says the song as we look up at the skylight, describing how love envelops us all.